Our new year has started. We have some places of service that are always open and available. If you would be interested in helping here at our church, please see me or someone else on our staff. We'd love to give you some opportunities. Friday night, there is a lock-in for our youth, and it's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So if you're involved in our youth program, if you've got friends, please let Brother Matt know and come on. And we'd love to have you join us for that particular time. CentriKid is coming up in July, and it is not too early to sign up for CentriKid. In fact, the deadline is January the 15th. So if you have kids 3rd grade through 6th grade who want to go to CentriKid, we need to know now, please. And it's best if you just kind of contact me so I can put your name down. Otherwise, my memory is kind of shot. So Jeremy or I, either one, would love to sign your kid up. It's $100 for camp. So that's for an entire family. If you have 3 kids, it's $100. If you have 1, it's $100. So I want you to know that up front. That deadline is January the 15th. Next Sunday night, we start back with Kid Explosion and Flight and our youth program on Sunday night, and Matt will explain a little bit more about that. So next Sunday night, everything gets back on board, and we're ready to start a brand new year again. One thing we do need to let you know is that Tuesday, the ladies' Bible study has been canceled. It's New Year's Eve, so the Bible study has been canceled. Also, if you will look carefully, our worship center renovation total has increased to almost $29,000. And we need $43,000 to start our renovation here in the worship center, so we have a covered walkway and we can make it from that building to this one without umbrellas, hopefully, and without the elements getting in our way. Also, flipping this so that you can better accommodate the needs here of our church. We're so glad you're here with us today. Let's worship. Lord God, thank you so much for the privilege of worshiping you. And Father, as we close out our Christmas season, we pray that you will have us look inward, Father, to see what can we give to you. What gifts, what talents, what openings, Father, do we need to have for you? Father, show us how we can worship you, just like the wise men, how we can offer you what you've talented us with and given us. Father God, we will worship you. So today, as we come to you, we come openly, we come surrendering our entire being to worshiping you in this room. We look forward to a great worship service, and we praise your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Good morning, again. I'd like to welcome some people. I have some friends from Courageous Church. It's raining right here on stage. This is Corey behind there. Scott for nice enough to come and help us lead today. The first song we're going to do, we should be over there pretty often. We haven't done it here, but I think you guys will like it and enjoy it. So go ahead.
Generation to generation. In the presence of my Savior.
or that we would truly believe that through you and through your Holy Spirit, Lord, we could do immeasurably more than we could ever imagine. We're so grateful for this year that you've given us to worship you, to bless one another. And I pray that as we start the new year, Lord, that we would start with our eyes open completely fixed on you. Lord, I pray that you'll be glorified in your church. In Jesus' name. Amen. You may have a seat. Those who see this one talk to you.
Difficulty in following a star in daylight. We were looking for royalty. We had no idea what we were going to find. I've been in the outer courts of princes and kings, noisy assemblages, the hangers-on every corner, quarters of favor, making endless racket, scheming, chattering, everyone wanting an audience with nobility. And none of that here. No. Here, silent. Lingering, calm, awestruck silence. Here, a newborn. Wrapped in cloth, lying in a feeding trough. There were 2 milk goats standing silently behind him. Chickens pecked on the ground. An exhausted woman and hungry. And outside, shepherds. Shepherds timidly watching. All are silent. We dare not say a word. We bow down. We worship. And we gently lay our gifts. I spent the bulk of my day searching for the truth of it all. Trying to make sense of this life. But that search, it was different. That time, while we were searching, we were also being led, not merely by a star, but by the hand of Almighty God. He led us. He led us to the one in whom all truth rests. He led us to a child, a baby, a king.
baby boy the angels called the Son of God, heaven's child, the great I am, born to take away my sin, through his hands, Emmanuel has come, and I believe.
Mike sang in his sermon last week, and so I knew I couldn't follow that up, so I had to get my wife to do it. Oh, it's good to be here this morning. It's good to see you. Before we get started in our sermon, we're going to be in Matthew chapter 2, so if you want to go ahead and turn there, you can. But before we get started, I just wanted to share a little bit about, so I'm the student minister here at Farley, and I was encouraged recently that it would be good for me to share a little bit about our student ministry and what we do, because really there's a lot of you that don't know. You come to our church, you're regular attenders, but you don't really know what happens for what we do. And so I wanted to explain just a little snippet of my heart for student ministry and kind of what we do. Some time ago I heard a term, it was gospel fluency. It was a term that was coined, and it stood out to me. And I thought, what does that mean, gospel fluency? And my first thought was, well, it probably means that I can understand the gospel, understand how to share it. I know what it is. Jesus came and died for our sins and rose from the dead, and I could share that with someone. And I thought that's probably gospel fluency. But as I got into it and read, there's a book. It's got an author named Jeff Vanderstelt. He's a pastor. And I actually had the opportunity to meet him last year, which was really neat. But in that book, I started reading about gospel fluency, and I'm starting to get a better understanding of what that means. And basically, gospel fluency is to be fluent in something you know. When you know a language, you can speak that language without thinking about it. I'm guessing everyone in here probably is fluent in English. You can speak it. You don't really have to think about what you're saying. It just comes out naturally. It's the same with gospel fluency. And to understand the gospel, it goes beyond the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. To understand the gospel is understanding what truth does the gospel speak in my everyday life, day to day. What truths does it have to say about specific scenarios and situations that I'm facing? What is true? So, for example, if you knew someone that was believing a lie, and you saw that in their life, and maybe it was just something about themselves, say it's something discouraging that they're walking in or living in, and it's believing a lie, you could talk to that person. You could know where to show you, take them to some scriptures, tell them what the gospel declares, what Jesus did for you, how he set you free from lies, and reveal to them the truth so that they can walk in that truth. So the gospel goes beyond the death, burial, and resurrection, and it goes into our everyday living. And so one of the things that I'm trying to do with our students, on Sunday nights we have something called D&D. It's not Dungeons and Dragons, so not that, but it's dinner and discipleship. And it is designed to dig in, like seriously dig in. Not playing around, nothing's really sugar-coated. We're getting our shovels and pickaxes and we're digging around in God's Word to see what we can find in there. And we're doing this together. And that's one of the elements that I want to incorporate within our student ministry is a unity, a oneness. I want to see that within our church, in and out. We're called to be one body. And so one of the things we do, we have dinner together. You see that Jesus and his disciples fellowship and ate together and places, you see that various places. And there is something about just having a meal together that's a special time, right? And so when we first started, there were tables here and there spread out. And the Lord laid it on my heart that we don't need to have that. Those are divisions, those are walls, and I don't want walls. We want walls to go away. And so what I decided to do was take all the tables, I think about 6 tables, and we put them in a big square, and we make a giant family table. And so everybody is sitting around the same table. And so there we get to sit, and we get to eat, fellowship with each other. And then after that, sometimes we divide up into small groups, sometimes we might stay in a larger group. But what we're doing is digging into God's Word. We've had exercises where I've had the students, I'm trying to teach them how to critically think through God's Word. Critical thinking. Asking questions. What is this text saying? Who is he talking to? Who's the audience? What is it God saying about who he is in this text? What is it that God is saying about who I am in this text? And we take that from its context and we draw it over to our time, to our day, and try keeping it in its context to understand what are the truths that God has spoken over us. And so how we can live. And so in that, my desire is that our students, once we do that more and more, and listen, there is no professional Christian. They don't exist. We are all practicing our faith. And I need help in this just as much as anybody. And I've told them time and again, hey, you're helping me too. Iron sharpens iron. You're helping me do the same things because I need to dig in. I don't really know if I know how to take all these truths from God's Word and speak them into someone's life. But what we're doing right now, what we've done the first half of the year is try to take those, break down some scriptures, learn how to ask questions about the scriptures, and then this next part of the year, I'm going to kind of shift focus a little bit. We'll still continue to do things like that. But what I want to do is in small groups, I encourage the students to be vulnerable. It's a hard thing for anybody to be vulnerable. And what I mean by that is to share. Share some things that you're going through. Share some things that are real, that you're struggling. Our teenagers deal with things that are not real all the time. You see it on social media. I get emotional about this, I guess, because it's something I'm passionate about. But the filters and the apps and the things that make you look skinny and the things that change every blemish on your face and make you look a certain way, it's not real. What's real is the struggle that we walk through. And I want them to understand that it is okay that you struggle. It's okay that that happens. And there's good news, there's hope, because the Word of God has an answer for what we're walking in. What is that answer? I'm not sure I can always tell you exactly, but let's dive in together and do that. And so I encourage students in those small group times to be vulnerable, to share, and so that we can start learning how to ask questions. And so what you do is you ask questions to each other. Questions that take you back to the truth about what Jesus said, what he's declared about us. And in that, you're not just lecturing. We have small group leaders, and I guarantee you, if you talk to them, they're learning as much from this as anybody. I can say the same for myself. But they're not there to just take over the whole thing. They're there to facilitate and encourage and teach the kids and help teach our teams how to ask good questions to each other. So that when you're asking a question, when somebody's asking you questions about something you're walking in, and they're asking you things, good questions, that thought process leads you on your own thought process back to the truth of what God says. And that is so much more impactful than if I just were to say, well, the Bible says this, believe it. You know, it's better to ask questions and help ourselves to talk through that and walk through that with one another. And there's no condemnation in Christ Jesus. And so I encourage our students to understand that. You're going to have real struggles. I have real struggles. We all do, and that's okay. There's no condemnation in Christ. But what we want to do is try to help each other look more and more like Christ. And so that's Sunday night. And that's kind of where my heart is. And what I do, what I am looking for, is leaders, adults, other people who would invest time into our students. Because we could use more. I'm so grateful for our leaders and what they do. But it's hard when there's only a handful. We can use more. And it's not just, I'm not talking about leaders that just show up on Sunday night for this. I'm talking about people who would be willing to build a relationship with the students throughout the week, to send them a text of encouragement, to give them a call, to meet up for ice cream, coffee, or whatever it might be, to meet a group of students, one or two, and just say, hey, how you doing? That they know I'm thinking about you through the week. And you know what I also would encourage is my students to do the same. Hey, have you reached out to your leader? Have you reached out to them and asked them how their week's going? Because leaders have bad weeks too. Leaders have struggles too. And so that's what I encourage. But we need more of that. Because I'm telling you, I promise you, 100%, this is not enough. Sunday morning is not enough, and it never will be. Sunday night is not enough, and it never will be. We are created in the context of community, and that is where we should be. And so I need people who would desire that to pour into students, but also be poured into and walk this together. And so Wednesday nights is more of a lighthearted night. We play some games, and I usually share a message that's a little more palatable for everybody, anybody that might come in. But and then we have our Sunday morning, our Sunday school. We have Sunday school teachers, great teachers up there, and I'm so thankful for everybody that's in our ministry. I'm thankful for my committee that helps me, and it's a blessing. Certainly, if you are interested or would love to be a part of our student ministry, there's ways that I haven't even thought of yet that you could participate. I don't doubt that. And that's something I would love to discuss and talk with you through. But that's my heart for students, is that they would live a life that's gospel-centered. And then when they graduate and they get into the world and they have a job and they get married and they have children, that all of the things that they will encounter. And as you know, as someone who has been in the world, got a job, got married, and had children, it's not easy street, right? There's things that happen. My desire is that our students will be able to walk in a way that is gospel-centered, so that when they do encounter those problems, they can immediately know to turn to the scriptures, and not only turn to them, not just passively read them, but to read them in a way that's critically reading and critically thinking through it and understanding what is the truth that he's telling me. Because there are some great treasures in this book, few minds dig deep enough. So that's my heart for student ministry. And if you'd like to know more, I'm wide open. You can always come in and talk to me and ask me questions. I would love to share more with you. So, all right, shifting gears. I'm back. So we're going to be looking at Matthew chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And I want to look at the response of Herod and the response of the wise men upon news of Jesus' birth. All right, so before we start that, let's go ahead and read our text and we're going to pray. Starting in chapter 2, verse 1. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born king of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and we have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes and people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet, And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly, and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship him. After listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold, and frankincense, and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. Let's pray. Father, thank you again for this day that you've given us. Thank you for the time to come together and read your word. I thank you so much for what you teach us in your word, Lord, and that we could never remind the depths of the treasures of your word. And so, Father, today I ask for help. I ask that you would help us understand what it is that you want us to know today. Holy Spirit, I pray that you would move on each and every heart. Father, I pray you would give us eyes to see and ears to hear what it is that you're saying. And Lord, we can't do it without you. We need your help. And so, Lord, we're pleading with you. Help us today to understand your word so that we can walk away here with a treasure that we can use in this world, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. So, we'll start with Herod. All right? And you can sum up Herod's response. We didn't read all the way down, and we'll get to it in a minute, of some events that unfold. But you can summarize Herod's response in one word, and that's pride. Herod's response comes from one, pride. Herod's reaction upon hearing the news of a new king resulted in immediate self-preservation. He thought only of himself, and his pride kept him from seeing the treasure that was born just a few miles away. So, I want to understand something. Pride can look a lot of different ways. It comes in many forms, but you can take every single sin and trace it back to pride. Every one. I would challenge you to do that. Look at any sin. Go back. It goes back to pride. And from pride can stem a lot of other things. And for Herod, it was self-preservation. He was in power. He had the throne. He wanted to keep it. And so he got wind of a new king that was born. And instead of viewing this king as a treasure, just a few miles away, one that could save his soul, he only looked at what he had in himself. And so pride results in worse sin, as I said. And so what does he do next? Look at verse 8. In verse 8, we see that Herod tells a lie. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word that I too may come and worship." That was a lie. That was not Herod's intent, not whatsoever. In fact, Herod had some seriously ill intentions toward this newborn king. And he didn't mind using the wise men who were coming to worship this king. He didn't mind using them for his personal gain, trying to trick them and deceive them. And so he lies to them and says, "Yeah, when you go find him, let me know so that I can come and worship." Now, pride continues to lead to more and more sin. And I want you to know something. Unchecked sin in your life. You got sin in your life and it is unchecked and it remains unchecked. It leads you down some very dark paths. Very dark. And this is what happened there. Verse 16. It says, "Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, because they were warned, hey, don't go to Herod. I want you to go an alternate route home, and don't go tell him where this newborn king is." And so Joseph was warned in a dream by an angel, take Jesus and Mary and go to Egypt, because Herod has ill intentions toward the child, plans to destroy the child. So you got to get out of here. So it says in verse 16, "Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men." I want to gloss over that scripture, that verse there. Because, we sing about Silent Night. And I don't know what it was like the night Jesus was born. It may not have been silent. Maybe there were cows mooing and, pigs feeding. I don't know what it looked like. But we sing, it's a nice song. We can sing it. But what I have no doubt is the night that Bethlehem awoke to the murder, the slaughter of their baby boys, 2 years and under. It was not a silent night. The horror in this act. And down some dark places. Now, I'm not saying that some of you are going to go out and murder someone because of your pride. But what I am saying is that if you leave it unchecked, if you have an area of pride in your life and you leave it unchecked, people are going to get hurt in some way. The people in your sphere of influence, which God has given you, the people in your community, which God has put around you, they will get hurt. Some examples, and this is not an exhaustive list of examples, this is just some examples. This is something that you as an individual should pray through and ask the Lord to show you. But I wrote a few examples here of how people can get hurt by pride. And one is this: if you do not have a teachable spirit. And I think probably all of us at times have wrestled with that, not having a teachable spirit. You ever met someone who was never wrong? They always have to be right. Do you enjoy hanging out with that person? You don't. You really don't. And sometimes people will go to great lengths to make sure that they're right. Even if they know they're wrong, well, they might still even just keep on because it's their pride that gets them. But that person suddenly becomes unapproachable. That you can't really approach them anymore because they won't have it any other way. They're so self-focused on what they want, and that's to not be wrong. Not a teachable spirit. And that's unattractive. And it does not look like Christ. Christ doesn't look like that. And we as believers, we can fall into that very easily. That can be us. And so we need one another to be able to lovingly speak in each other's lives. But it is difficult when you've got someone who is so consumed with themselves that they're not teachable. My sister, she's a counselor, and she told me one time, if people are just absolutely unreasonable, you can't reason with them. They have to come to a place. They have to come to a hard place sometimes. And so you may reach a point, if you're that way, you may reach a point where if you're God's child and you're acting that way, He's not going to let it continue. Something's going to happen. And sometimes we hit rock bottom, and rock bottom hurts. It really hurts. But I praise God that we have a God that we serve that won't let us walk in those things for very long. He's not going to keep us there. But be warned, because pride can do some ugly things. Next thing, and this is one I think everyone can relate to, and that is fear. Did you know fear stems from pride? In various ways. Fear stems from pride. We may fear, I have this personal fear, and I'll share it with you. I have a fear of inadequacy. That's something I have struggled with. I have this fear of not measuring up sometimes to what people think I should do or be. I have that fear that I really do contend with. It's one that I struggle with at times. You know, when I do that, I take my eyes off of Christ. And I have found that when I'm in that struggle and I'm believing the lies that the Lord is not going to see me through something, I find that I get frustrated, I get snippy and snappy, and not a fun person to be around. And it's because I'm resting in something that's not true. And when you're there, sometimes it's hard to see the truth. But the truth is, Matt Lindsay, in and of himself, in his flesh, is inadequate. I'm very inadequate. Here's the gospel truth. And this is part of gospel fluency. And this would be where someone would come on in my life and say, Matt, if I've shared this struggle with somebody, they would come in there and say, Matt, it is true, you are inadequate, but what does Scripture told us? What does He say? He said, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. And it's by His Spirit, His power, that I can do things. Not my own. And so the truth is, you're resting in your flesh when you just need to trust Him and what He said He's going to do. When He said it's okay, He's got this. Whatever He's put before you, you can do it. Maybe you have a fear maybe you struggle with a similar fear. Maybe there's a place in church where you can serve, but you just won't because you're afraid. Maybe you're afraid of the commitment. Maybe you're afraid of the time it's going to take from you. Maybe you're afraid that you just won't measure up. You're just not up to par to do the task at hand. I don't know. But did you know that stems from pride? That's pride, because you look at yourself. and worried that you're not going to look the way you're supposed to look and do the way you're supposed to. That's pride. And pride leads you down bad places. And we are not called to pride. Self-centeredness. That's kind of a given. That, yeah, I mean, if you're self-centered, you're probably a very prideful person. It could be that much like Herod, maybe you've gained or acquired a certain status in life. Maybe your coworkers, maybe you're embarrassed to say you're a Christian around coworkers. That's pride. Maybe you've acquired certain riches or wealth and you couldn't bear the thought of giving those up. Sounds a lot like Herod. Just like Herod, you can't see the treasure in Christ because you're blinded by your own selfishness. I'm not making a phone call. There's a quote. I want to read it. Well, that's fun. All right. So there's this quote by C.S. Lewis that I really like, and it's a very popular quote. Many of you probably heard it, but I think it's worth sharing here. C.S. Lewis said this: "It would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased." Herod was far too easily pleased with the life that he had given. So much so that he thought that was where it was at. This is where I want to be. This is achievement. He did not know that just a few miles away, the greatest treasure he could ever receive had been born. Instead, he wanted to destroy that treasure. Why? Because of his pride. So we have to watch. That was the response of Herod upon hearing the news of the newborn king. So now let's take a look at the wise men, because it's a very different response. It's a much different response. And there's a lot we can learn from this. So, who were the wise men, first of all? We don't really know much about them. Magi, they're called. Maybe they were astrologers. They seem to understand the sky and stars. I don't know. We don't know a lot about them. Why do you think that is? They're not the star of the show. Jesus is the one that was the star of the show in the story. So it's not really that important that we know a lot about who the wise men are. But what's important is their motivation. Why? That's what really is important about the wise men right now. So let's look back in Matthew 2 again. I want you to look at verses 1 and 2. And it says, "Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and we have come to worship him." There it is. That's the motivation of the wise men. They came to worship. That was their heart in this. They came to worship this newborn king. That was where their heart was. And so once they entered Jerusalem, it says that they were saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews?" So they inquired to his whereabouts, which the word "saying" implies that maybe they questioned everybody. Maybe they went around asking everybody, "Hey, have you seen him? Where is he?" Because later on it says that when the people heard this and when Herod heard this, they were troubled. So the wise men may be thinking, hey, I mean, they've been following along with this. They knew, they saw the prophecy and they saw the star and they were following along. They might have assumed that everybody else was too. And when they got there, suddenly this was news to everybody. And you guys live a few miles away. We came from far away. And you don't know. You don't see this newborn king, and you don't understand the value and the worth and what's just taking place just a few miles down. And so we see worship. We see a heart of worship in the wise man. And the next thing we see is their anticipation of seeing Jesus. It led them to joy. Let's read look at verses 9 and 10. It says this, after listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. Here's their response. They haven't seen Jesus yet, but they know they're about to. And here's their response. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. They were excited. So we've seen a whole month of great stuff this past month. We started our month here at Farley with the hanging of the green. The next week, we had Sunday school parties. Everybody had their party, their Christmas party. After that, there was a children's musical and play, which was great. We went and sang carols last Sunday night, which was a huge blessing. I feel like we might have been blessed more than the people we sang to. I don't know, but it was a huge blessing. And in between that, you've probably done a lot of other things. Maybe you've had parties, maybe you've gone and saw family, maybe you had a work party, whatever it might be. You've decorated your home. Maybe you've gone to see Christmas lights. We did. We went downtown and saw all the trees. We tried to ride around and see some Christmas lights and show the girls Christmas lights, which was just a lot of fun. All of these things that we had our Christmas Eve service too, though, which was great. That was amazing to be able to come in and take communion together. All of these things that we did, I hope, were reminders to us of what was to come. We do all of these things leading up to a certain day. That's Christmas Day. And that's the day that we have set aside to celebrate the birth of Jesus. And so all of the things that we do with the hanging of lights and the exchanging of the gifts and all the traditions, which I think are a lot of fun, hopefully we're not wrapped up in the doing of those things. And we understand that why we do those things is because we are welling up with anticipation, and joy is welling up within us that we get to celebrate Christmas Day, the birth of Jesus Christ. That's the day. That's what happened to the wise men. As they were walking, as they saw that star, and finally they've been traveling for who knows how long at this point, and that star stops over where Jesus is. And it says they would rejoice. They were exceeding joy. It had been welling up in them this whole time. Their journey, whatever it looked like, prepared them for that moment. We're about to see the King. All right. So, going on, not only did they experience joy, and we see that, and they worship. Look at verse 11. It says this, and going into the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they fell down and worshiped. They fell down and worshiped him. Let's stop right there and pay attention to that. That falling down before someone, that was a sign of humility, for sure. Anytime you lay on the ground before someone and worship, you are humbling yourself. And they didn't walk into the sight of a mighty warrior king decked out in kingly garments and armor and a shiny crown. They walked in on a toddler. You seen a toddler? Yeah, they're snotty. They're not potty trained. They slobber a lot, especially when they're cutting their teeth. They walked in on this little boy who did not look kingly at all, I'm guessing. When they fell down, they worshiped him. They showed humility. The wise men's response to the news of the birth of King Jesus, was a humble one. And then they didn't stop there. Let's go on. In verse 11, it says this, then opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. Then opening their treasures. Okay, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These were fitting for a king. These were fitting gifts for a king. And they took things, these were the wise men's treasures. These were their belongings, their valuables. These were expensive gifts. They were costly. And they took the costly gifts that belonged to them, what they treasured, and they took what they treasured, and they opened them up, and they gave them to King Jesus. What about us? What can we learn from all of this? What is our response? Our everyday response to the gospel? Do we well up with joy in anticipation? Not only joy in anticipation of the return of Jesus one day, but the joy and anticipation of the work that he's doing right now. So you wake up wondering in awe, Lord, what are you going to do in my life today? You wake up wondering, oh, Lord, what are you going to do in the lives of those people around me? And there's a joy that comes from that. Now, please understand, I'm not talking about happiness. There's a difference between happiness and joy. You know, I was happy when I got a car. I'm not happy when my car broke down. Not at all. That's not a happy moment. But guess what? I have joy. And why is joy different? Because joy is rooted in truth. Happiness is rooted in circumstance. Right? And circumstances do this. Truth does this. And that is your foundation. That's where you rest. That's where you land. Is in truth. And so if you land in that truth, you can have joy because you know that Jesus has said, I've got you. I've already gone before you. Everything that has happened to you, every encounter, every trial, every tribulation, every trouble, every happy moment, every sad moment, every moment that you experience, I have been before you. And I do everything for your good and my glory. That is speaking the truth of the gospel in your life. That's where joy comes from. So we can have joy day in and day out. Just like the wise men, as they anticipated the work that was going to take place, as they anticipated what was going to happen when they walked in and saw the king, they had joy. And then they worshiped. They fell down before him in humility and they worshiped and they took their gifts, their treasures, and they gave them to him. You have been given treasures in your life. There are things that you treasure up. Maybe your children, it may be your spouse, anything in your life. You have treasures that you have. God has given you resources. You've acquired things over time. In what ways have you taken those resources, those treasures, and have you given them back to the King who's worthy of those gifts? In what way have you done this? And this is a hard message to preach. It's hard for me. Because I'm preaching to myself. I'm looking at myself going, man, what have I done? You know? This is a tough one. But it's one that we need to look at, especially now because all of the stuff that we've been doing, everything was really the messages that we've heard and the events and everything was really to look forward to the birth of Christ. Now we've celebrated that day and that day has passed. And a lot of times it feels like after Christmas, the dust starts to settle and you're just like, you know, take a breath. And kind of get your bearings before the new year comes in, right? And that's what this message is for. It's for you to take a breath for a second and to get your bearings and then to ask, okay, Lord, I'm going into a new year. What does my new year look like in the aspect of worship to you? What can I learn from these wise men and their response? What can I learn from Herod and his response? How can I not look like Herod? Because Herod is not like Christ. How can my attitude be that of the wise men? Because what they did looked like Christ. Because when Christ, as he grew and started his ministry, he did the same thing. He laid himself aside, his will, he laid it aside, and he obeyed the Father all the way to the point of laying his life down for you and me. That's what he did. That looks like Christ. So, what is it that you're going to do in the new year as we go in? How are you going to worship? How are you going to take your gifts? And how are you going to be joyful in the journey? Because it's not going to be rainbows and sunshine all year. We know that. That shouldn't be any shocker to us at all. But what we do know is that we can have joy in the journey. Let's pray. Father,